just wanted to start actually by looking at the outlook for your business, but looking at the market first, and this divergence that you're seeing both between the public sector and the private sector, and the divergence really between the South African market, where we've been promised these 1 trillion rands worth of public sector investment, which is not seeming to materialize, and the Australasian market, which seems to be bubbling under.
Yeah, thank you. I think if you look at our order book, 82% of the South African order book is private sector. We prefer it to be 50-50 or even 60-40 private sector. That imbalance is really reflective of the softness in public sector infrastructure spend in South Africa, and the consequences of not seeing that public sector spend come through in the local economy. You can certainly feel it in terms of jobs and capacity utilization in South Africa. We're a global company. We're in 28 to 30 countries, but of course we want to be strong at home. And so the quicker we start to see the rollout of public sector infrastructure, the better, not just for Aveng, but for the whole industry, and certainly in terms of the creation of jobs.
And you are seeing a divergence between strength in sort of the commodities-led businesses versus those public sector areas.
Yes, 41% of our business is mining related. We're seeing strong growth in terms of LNG in Australia, open cast mining holding its own quite nicely. But certainly, I do, however, feel that it is going to come. If you see the diagnostic of the National Planning Commission, they talk about the underinvestment in public infrastructure as a huge impediment to South Africa's growth trajectory. So I don't think it's a matter of if, it's a matter of when.
Okay, but your mantra at the moment is that in this tough environment, you've got to look for growth where it's, fish where the fish are, as you said, but you need to make sure that that is a profitable growth.
Yeah.
And the way you tender and the way you execute projects were two issues that were highlighted in the presentation. Could you take us through the way you trying to make sure that the margins are still sustained during this tough period?
Yeah, look, I think there are fewer projects, and so more competition for fewer projects, which tends to drive margins down. We have to keep our smarts about us and really, strengthen smart contracting. And what that means is we need to be able to put in bids at competitive margins without undermining the quality of our book 18, 24 months from now. And a lot of that is around cost. And do you have a cost advantage in terms of your structure, your procurement, and the way you organize yourself? And so, part of our toolkit to deal with this issue of margin compression is really to contract smarter and to look at every possible way that we can leverage our business operationally to unlock, cost efficiencies, procurement efficiencies, product efficiencies.
And project execution, while you're seeing strong growth in Australasia in terms of the order book, there have been some problems with project execution. How is that going to change?
Firstly, in one project we changed the entire management team there. Oftentimes these things are about people. Sometimes the projects are technically, we execute very complex technical projects. I mean, that's what the Aveng group does, and you can't foresee all of these issues. Any contractor will tell you, in 10 big projects, some of them you will experience difficulties, whether they be geotechnical, as we've seen in the Adelaide desal plant, or any other problems. So we are jacking up on our people and also technically to mitigate these things from happening in future. We've also seen in the Australian market some delays caused by Mother Nature. For example, flooding in Queensland was a factor on some contract delays there.
And similarly in the water space, you see a lot of municipalities now studying desalination as an option, Western Cape, KwaZulu-Natal, and then inland we've got the acid mine drainage problem. How are you positioning the business for those potential opportunities?
Well, we've spun Aveng Water off EPC. Aveng EPC developed that business. It's now a standalone business with a management team, and they eat, breathe, sleep water treatment solutions. And we have the right people in place to interact with municipalities, with mining houses, to share our technology and to provide a service there. So we have a very market-facing team now that can go out and grow this business.
And finally, you are a fairly sizable player in the whole steel area, an environment, from being a merchant to providing your value-added components to the automotive sector and others. Are you concerned about the supply disruptions and the current price path, particularly for long steel products?
Well, already there's been an announcement of an increase for long steel products on the back of the Newcastle mill developments there. You know, about 18 months ago, we took a decision to start to grow our steel imports as a percentage of our overall stock, and we targeted 20%. We're at about 15% now. I think any capacity constraints domestically is, of course, a concern. We do foresee for the full year steel price increases of between 5 to 10%, driven largely by imports coming in and local suppliers wanting to basically have parity on that. So it is a concern, but we have started our own import program, and Mittal has indicated they'll be importing as well.